Welcome to episode 12 of the Gig Sessions Lunchtime Talk. Let's jump right in and let me introduce you to today's guest. Our first guest is Boo Ray, and his dramatic Southern sound will draw you in. His voice will leave you hanging on every lyric, and his songs will stick with you like a good friend does. Boo is a Southern troubadour who has forged and honed his sound in South Georgia honky tonks, Gulf Coast juke joints, Nashville nightclubs, and Los Angeles songwriter joints. Hailing from the mountains of Western North Carolina, please welcome Boo Ray.
Howdy, howdy.
How are you?
Good. Thanks a ton, Tina. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Now let me introduce you to our second guest. Our next guest is Shaw Davis from Pompano Beach, Florida. Shaw is rapidly establishing himself in the realm of roots and blues rock. Born in 1995, this young guitarist has burst his way onto the scene, and in 2019, he was named one of the 50 modern blues and rock artists by Rock and Blues Muse. Welcome, Shaw.
What's going on, y'all? Thanks for having me, Tina. Hey, Boo.
Howdy, howdy.
So you two have never met, and Boo, you tour in the country world, and Shaw, you're beginning to tour in the blues world. I know that both of you are eclectic music listeners, and so wanted to take this opportunity not just to personally have a moment with you, but to introduce you guys to each other because I think you'll like each other's music.
Cool. Yeah, I listen. I had a chance to listen to this just a little bit, and I dig what Sean's doing a bunch. Yeah.
Likewise, man. I was listening to Tennessee Alabama Fireworks in the van this morning. I'd never heard you until Tina hooked this up, so I was digging it a lot.
Appreciate it. Yeah. Holler when you're in Nashville, man. Holler anytime.
Man, I will, because we gotta get there as soon as this all clears up and we can get back out on the road.
And speaking of that, Boo, you kind of hold residencies in Nashville, Athens, and LA. Have you been to any of those places since COVID, or where are you based right now?
I'm in Nashville. I did the first 60 days of quarantine. The tornado hit Nashville, and then quarantine happened like 4 days later. So, and Nashville's still pretty beat up. There's much damage from the tornado that still exists. It's just, they chainsaw crews and power company crews cleaned up that portion of the damage, the acute, roads blocked and stuff. But there's still a bunch of damage here. But I bugged out and went out in the middle of 1,200 acres in a cabin halfway in between Nashville and Memphis and wrote a couple of records.
A couple of records.
Yeah, I did. I wrote about 30 songs, 30 new songs in that portion of the quarantine. Yeah.
Can you say that you've written 2 albums, Sean or Shaw? Sorry.
We've written 2, but not since the quarantine. We've got about another one on the way, but we've written another album. We're about to release our 3rd, and we've got a 4th one in the works already too, with all the downtime. But 30 songs, no, we ain't written that many. Boo, you're on a tear, man.
I have been down to Athens. Georgia. The quarantine in Georgia is more relaxed, as I understand it, than California. California, as I understand from, I've been in pretty close contact. I had plane tickets to fly out there not long ago, and just shortly after I booked the tickets. When I first booked the tickets, I had been talking to my friends, and they were all excited out there. They said the beaches had just opened up, and that California was fixing to open up even more. And then I talked to them, and like a week later, I went ahead and booked my tickets. And then the following week, California announced, some crazy record of new cases of like 17,000 new cases in a day or some damn thing. So I had to cancel my tickets essentially. The hang in Georgia and the hang in Tennessee, though I do not consider it to be correct quarantine behavior and procedure, it is a more relaxed hang. People aren't wearing masks in Georgia and Tennessee hardly,
We just stopped at a couple. We're out here in Missouri. We stopped at a couple of places, and there haven't been any masks. And down in Florida, it's been like lockdown city, So it's been different. It's been nice to walk into a gas station without a mask, though. I'll say that.
Well, and I'm wearing my mask even if everybody else is. I mean, I'm wearing my damn mask. My sister is a physician's assistant and a nurse practitioner, and so I don't listen to any political news on medical issues. I take it from the damn doctors, straight up.
And what is she telling you?
She says wear your mask. She says she wouldn't be caught dead in the hospital without her mask on. A full-time healthcare professional. It's not. There is zero room for gray area or latitude on this issue. It is simple. And if you've ever been around animals or a farm or a barn or a farmyard, you have firsthand experience of the basic common sense issues of sanitization and simple. It's not. There's no gray area in this manner whatsoever. Not only that, but I ran down a couple of the reports that were saying. I had some people say, "Oh, the masks are actually bad for you due to including a World Health Organization report." And I ran that down, and I sent that to my sister. These reports, and she said, "Oh yeah, we're aware of these reports. They are directly related and affiliated with political and financial agenda attributed to the FDA and drug companies." It's simple stuff, man.
I live in a town where a very large portion of its population are Mennonites. And they are taking the path that, they're not going to wear the mask. It's God's will. They're going to survive or they're not. And one of the local businessmen, his entire family came down with COVID. And so it became our first hit in our tiny town. And it created a lot of dissension. And, thank goodness the gentleman and his family are fine.
Yeah.
But even with that happening in my town, people still aren't wearing masks. But I'm with you, Boo. I wear it everywhere. I live with a gentleman who has very bad asthma. For some reason, I have this amazing immune system. So I'm not worried about me. I'm worried about him.
Right.
And I'm worried about the people I don't know.
Sure.
Thinking
of others. That's the basic principle, right?
Yep. And exactly, there's a world out there a lot larger than me, and I never want to forget that.
Yeah.
So
I did play a couple of gigs out in Franklin. Franklin, Tennessee, which is just outside of Nashville, is a area that it's one of these areas where, not unlike Texas. I know all my Texas friends just refuse to wear masks, and hey, man, that's their prerogative. I'm not on any soapbox. I'm really not. I'm not super offended either by people who don't wear masks. I'm just kind of like, well, I don't think it's intelligent. I disagree, but I don't even bother telling them that. That's their business. I think it's unintelligent and short-sighted and selfish. But I don't necessarily go around telling people that when they don't hold doors or let people come out of the elevator before they get in the elevator. I don't bother. If they're not educated and aware of themselves and the world to that degree, I don't want that job.
I'm not here to educate the world, right?
Yeah.
So these shows in Franklin, were they recent?
Yes.
Okay.
and my experience was this: the quarantine and the social distancing worked well for a few hours, and as the evening went on and consumption consumption reached a certain point, social distancing decreased.
Interesting. And what I think is interesting about this conversation is, I've been having so many lunchtime talks where we're just talking about what we're doing with our time.
Mm,
So you're playing in Franklin, and Shaw, I don't know if you can tell he's in a van.
I can. Yeah,
Okay. He's not in a hotel lobby, he's in a van.
gotcha.
And he is on the road headed from Florida to Missouri for 3 dates,
Cool.
right?
Yeah, we'll be playing Knuckleheads and
Cool.
tonight, and then Friday and Saturday will be at a place called the Corner Bar on the
I
outside.
love
They got like
Knuckleheads. Pardon me, I
Knucklehead.
didn't interrupt you. Sorry. You playing Knuckleheads? What's the next place?
Playing Corner Bar 2 nights in a row at the outside. They got like an outdoor setup out there. And then the last one we're doing is a private show with Hector and Chando out in Omaha that's been planned for quite some time, and that's also outdoors. So every place that we're playing at is, basically all outdoor shows, and that's the way that we've been playing back home too. Is when we do get the chance to play, it's always been good. Venues are following the rules, and people seem to be following the rules as well. For the most part, there's always a couple of people who are going to do what they want to do. But no, it's been okay. It hasn't been like like some kind of a floodgate opening or like some madhouse. People have been pretty ordinate with the rules and following them pretty well. So these are the only tour dates we're probably going to have the entire year, and it just these ones just never quite got bumped. So I'm glad we got the chance to come out here and do this. We haven't been on the road in 6 months, like everybody else. We just haven't been on the road. So I'm looking forward to it. It's bittersweet because I don't want to go back home after this. I want to keep on the road, but usually when you're on the road, you got another tour a month later, and this one it feels like 4 days of playing, and then we got to go back home.
And Knuckleheads has been doing everything right. I really commend Frank for all that he is doing with that room.
I love that venue so much.
Yeah. It is a giant playland for music lovers of all kinds.
I'll say that I commend you for taking the risk and having the courage to be part of be an experimental part, which I went and played these gigs recently too, and there are a number of people, I know there's a couple country, kind of mainstream country guys they were doing a drive-in theater and they let a couple of 1,000 extra people in, and those acts were admonished and spoken against real sternly. The shaming culture of this current modern thing, I'm not endorsing that either. I think nobody knows exactly what the nature of all this stuff is. I do think quarantining and social distancing is effective, clearly. You can see it in the states that are implementing this stuff, and it works. That being said, I do think that it's important that we try to begin opening back up and trying to say that we're
That's
about
exactly
to
right.
Our venues are about to go under forever.
And we've already had a venue back home, like the Funky Biscuit, that just closed down, and it's a shame to see it go. And what I'd like to see is more effort from artists, venues, and fans collectively to try and find a way to do this the right way, to try and find a way to do it safely, because doing nothing at all is the worst thing we could possibly do, because then we're going to come back to absolutely no scene, no venues. Correct. So we have to try and find different ways to make this work until we can get back to, if we can, get back to the way things were before, which I'm hopeful they will be. I know this will all pass one day. But so what I'd like to do is find a little bit more creative ways. We did a drive-in show as well with Lou Phoenix down here in Port Charlotte, or I shouldn't say down here, back in Port Charlotte, Missouri right now. And it went great. It was a good turnout. Cars were spaced out. It felt like everybody was having a good time. It felt like everybody was safe. And if we could try and find more ways to do that, that would be fantastic. Or if we can find ways to make people cooperate inside venues so that we don't have to cap them so low. Because one of the biggest problems as well is that, what venue can operate at 50% capacity?
It won't work.
Yeah.
My buddy Sean Brock, who's a culinary personality, he has been working on some legislation regarding. Cause I see venues and the service industry and restaurant industry very closely related, and who can operate. I mean, they operated at a 15 or 20% profit in the first place. So if you do the math, how are they going to operate? It can't exist,
Right.
The numbers crunch, and it puts everybody out of business. So again, I commend you, because I also, I definitely, I'd go out and play knuckle heads too. I would take that risk, and and I'm going to continue to take calculated, educated risks, and play small venues, and that I think personally that I know, and that I know them personally, and I think that they are trying to be smart and proactive as possible. I'm gonna take that risk.
Right. And that's like what? Sorry, Tierney, go ahead.
No, and that's the interesting thing, because I was talking with someone today and they explained it really well. The level of the industry that we are a part of is the creative side of this industry. I'm not saying that Bruno Mars is not creative. I'm just saying, like he put it, it's the McDonald's of music.
Right.
And then the plateau under that is kind of like the guys that, sure, they have bands and they do make money off of it, but they have jobs. So this isn't their full-time thing. It's that layer of the full-time that is the creative source. And if we don't protect this, we're going to lose the side that is the creative side. And I do, I'm at that point that I hear this a lot. Well, maybe it's time to get a job. and okay, sure. But where? And so I do. I think if the promoters are not in a space to have property or outdoor drive-in venues, and I feel like it's coming to a point where we're all going to have to step up and be promoters. I'm going to have to step in some percentage, and the venue's going to have a percentage, and the burden's going to continue to fall on you, the artist. So yeah, I think after 6 months of this, we need to start coming together and figuring out what we can do. And I think that's partially another reason I wanted to bring two artists together that didn't know each other, because the more you guys can mingle together, the more creative you can be.
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
Yeah, man.
Because
right with you. Yeah.
As an agent, I promotions are not my thing, even though I would be willing to step into that because I'm not ignorant to it. But yeah, I mean, like you said, we have to get this ball rolling in some way, and not in a way that's selfish to the fact that we need to make an income. It's just that music is necessary.
Agreed. I heard, I haven't run this down certain for certain, but I heard that we have lost. I've heard that the whiskey is gone in LA. I've heard that the Viper Room is gone in LA.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, those are foundation small venues.
And the venues that have been around for decades. I mean, it's hard to believe. It's staple venues, type of rooms that have been around, and you've seen artists come up in these things, and it's watching them close one after another. Venues that have been around for 30 plus years, historic rooms. It's heartbreaking, and it cannot continue to happen. And we got to find a way to stop it. And and it's funny that you go back to the shaming part of this, right? You got to find a way to stop it. Well, it seems to be that every time we try and find some kind of a way or you're always going to catch backlash
Sure.
for trying to save your industry, which is a strange thing to be in. You know, you can't promote a show anymore. It seems like it's hard to promote your own gig locally because you're gonna lose fans over the fact that you're going out there and trying to play a show. But you know, sometimes they gotta step in your shoes. And 6 months ago, when we all thought that, you know, it might be back in April or something, or in May even at the latest, and I mean, here we are in September, and with no end in sight. You know, so it's been this constant struggle of getting drug along. You know, you never really quite know what's going on. If you want to go find a day job, I get that, but being told something different over and over and over, it just has been probably one of the hardest things personally. And I think it's why we see a lot of these venues closing down too. They've been trying to struggle and hang on, not knowing when the end is in sight, and then they just run out. You run out of fuel.
You run out of money.
As you guys both know, you know, the venues that have classically and long time been our, you know, our, as Tina's calling it, the creative arm, the real creative arm of the industry, which is full-timers like ourselves that are not part of the machine, the corporate machine, right? The corporate machine has now identified the fact that small cottage industry, you know, mom and pop shops like the Exit Inn, like the Whiskey, like these small venues are possibly part of the last frontier of functioning money-making opportunities. And in fact, Live Nation and some of these large organizations have come in and secured the rights to book these venues. Like, I think Exit Inn is now a Live Nation venue.
It is.
You know, that's a daggum forever, you know, foundation independent venue as far as I'm concerned. And as far as what can we do about that, I don't even know. I mean, I have no response.
That's a really interesting point. That's a very interesting. I had some mixed emotions about something like that, man.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And what's interesting, you know, you lost the Funky Biscuit in your home market, and this was your home room. This was the only room you played in your hometown. Have you? I mean, I know it's kind of new, but have you given thought to where you're gonna go, or are you just taking it day by day and looking forward to this Missouri tour?
Just looking forward to this Missouri tour right now. I gotta, you know, growing up in South Florida, I know of a lot of places. I got a couple of spots in mind that are great rooms, but the Funky Biscuit was a very special place. Al Poliak is a man that means the absolute world to me. I would do anything for him, and so I'm going to talk with him first. That's all I'll say.
And that's okay. Let's talk about that. You know, we've got these rooms that are closing. People who helped you with your career. He gave you an opportunity. You stepped up. You did it. You were selling out the venue. Yes, you should talk to him first. You know, because again, it's not necessarily always about a venue. Sometimes, like I said, we're all going to have to step into promoter shoes in some way. And with him already understanding that, it would be a big asset for him if he wanted to do maybe like a handful of shows somewhere at the drive-in theater.
Sure. Yeah, I've seen a little bit of that. I've seen a little bit of that just after the tornadoes. Just after the tornado in Nashville, you know, which destroyed the Basement East.
Yeah, I read about that.
And the Basement East with great cooperation from other venues, some of the pre-existing bookings were moved to other venues as Basement East shows. You know.
And that's huge for such a competitive area like Nashville.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I thought so too. I thought so too. You know, we were just talking about we were just this whole thing is so complex. It really is so complex. Like you were saying, it is almost not acceptable for us to promote our own shows right now. That's the truth.
It's a strange
Um,
thing, isn't it, man?
and I'll tell you what. Here's what I think about that. I entirely reject and I find despicable the entirety of the shaming and cancel culture. I reject the entire damn thing, all of it, all of them. Even if they might happen to be correct on a few issues, I think it's basically lynch mob mentality. Is what it is. It's judging, it's blanket judging without information and being informed, and I reject the entire modern nature of that way of communicating, and I'm not having any part of it.
And this is what I've really grown to admire about Shaw. He does think more like our generation. I think you're an old soul in a young man's body, and I do. I mean, we've had many conversations here about growing up in a culture where you disagreed with your friends, but you actually got to like them more because you understood them better. And we don't have that tolerance in this world anymore. And this whole thing that's happening as we're sitting here thinking about what and how we're going to continue to maneuver in an industry that constantly takes that brain power. I'm just baffled that I always thought that music fans were extremely wide open people. I always thought they were non-judgmental. So when you start to see that seep into your own culture, you know something's gone awry.
Yeah.
It's really easy to sit back behind a computer screen and fire off a negative comment to somebody that you barely know, or you might know them somewhat. You know, it's
keyboard.
I try to stay away from, right. I mean, I try and stay away from stuff like that.
It's funny you say this. Just yesterday,
and I do stay away from it 100%.
Me too.
I succeed with flying colors at it, actually.
Yeah.
No, I hear you. It's funny you say that. Just yesterday, I had somebody jump in one of my threads on my page, and go after somebody that they disagreed with, and they didn't like the fact that I was supporting this other entity, and I had actually heard about some of the extreme postings of this other entity that I support and do business with, and I'd heard about it, but like my perspective is basically like what Tina is saying. I was like, hey, even if you're wacky, you've got the right to be wacky. If that's what you want to do, you're welcome to be as wacky as you damn want to. And so I don't follow. I don't engage. I'm not interested in that. I'm not participating in that. But I'm not trying to stop anybody from it either. And right. So this other third party that was jumped in my thread, and you can find it. You find the thread. I'm not. I'm transparent as hell. You know what I mean? Like if somebody wants to crank something up, I'll do it in front of God and everybody. I don't give a damn. You know what I mean? So this third party, and it turns out they were anonymous too. They would not reveal their identity, which is another. I just have complete contempt for that now, because like character matters. Character actually matters.
100%.
So this third party jumped in and admonished me for supporting this entity that I was supporting, who's got these, who's using their platform of their business page for the purpose of this ranting nature, and they were admonishing me for supporting this third party. Well, so I just, like I said, in front of God and everybody, I jumped in the thread. I was like, well, I see what you're saying. I don't appreciate you coming over here to my spot and telling me where to get my hats and who to associate with. Um, I'll try to understand where you're coming from. Express yourself. Well, they finally did express themselves, but it was like 15 comments later after they had already offended the hell out of me, right? And so the lack of maturity and the lack of communication skills, the lack of directness was a huge problem in this thread, and then they wouldn't have revealed their identity. You know, like I mean, I don't make any. I'm not hiding what I think or hiding what I believe, and I'm also not trying to control or limit or regulate what anybody else thinks or believes whatsoever. I'm of this old school, like what you're talking about, Tina. My granddad, my dad, we ate dinner and had Sunday meals with people who we disagreed with, and everybody was friendly and got along just fine.
Yeah. And I think you have to, I don't think we can be true human beings without having some understanding of the disagreement. Because you may not always know why you think the way you do. So if you don't take time to hear some other side, you may be missing something.
Yeah.
And maybe it validates you stronger in your stance, or maybe it changes your opinion.
Yeah.
And we don't have that option anymore. Yeah, it's insane. So I wanna ask you something that's kind of off target here. Um, I was reading about your clothesline, and so I want you to tell us the story of how you came to have your own shirts under the H Bar C Shirt Company.
So, hey, thanks for asking about that. A couple years ago, I did a Christmas gift guide article for the Manual Guide. It's like a men's health style, like a high quality men's health style, men's lifestyle magazine, the Manual Guide. And they asked me uh, to do a Christmas gift guide, and so I spent most of the article. I don't know, 7 out of 10 of the items that I listed were artists and craftsmen, personal friends of mine. James A. Willis, for instance, who paints the guitar cases, which can be seen at Carter Vintage. And Ellie Monster, who makes all my troubadour suits and all my Western wear here in East Nashville. And I spent most of the article talking about that stuff. And then I also mentioned, I said, get your sweetheart or your significant other or your brother or your friend a vintage H Bar C shirt, just because I enjoy the brand. And my granddad had been giving me a couple, 2 or 3 of those shirts every year since I grew big enough to wear a men's medium. So since I was 13, 14, 15 years old, I've been getting 2 or 3 of those shirts a year from my granddad, a tradition which we continued until he died a few years ago. And so I've got this massive collection of H Bar C shirts. I started counting it the other day. I stopped at 77.
Oh, sounds like my boot collection.
It's crazy. It's a little bit ludicrous. So within a week of that article coming out in the Manual Guide, H Bar C contacted me and said, "Hey, we just became aware of your collection and the story about your granddad, and we love your story. Send us the 3 favorite shirts that your granddad gave you, and we will build tribute shirts to those shirts." So that's the nature. That's how it happened.
How sweet is that?
I love it. It was so much fun, and the company is owned and run by Rick Stahl, who has now become a dear friend of mine, and he's in Detroit. And the reason he's a music lover and a lifestyle, 70s lifestyle and Western wear lover, and he is in Detroit and manufactures hockey clothing and equipment for a living. So he has all the vintage sewing machines, which is how he got into it. How cool is that?
Oh, that is cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
Thanks for asking about that, Tina.
Yeah, that's so
Yeah.
sweet. The story is sweet. And so you, Shaw, you are on the road. Thank you for doing this while you're driving. Um, you do have a new album coming out. So talk about, how it came to be, who produced it, and when are you releasing it?
Yeah, thank you. We got a new album on the way. It's called Red Sun Rebellion. It's a 9-track album, and we finished it last September. We finished it a year ago. We were getting ready to release it in March. We had a release date set at the end of March, and unfortunately, all of those plans got pushed aside. I've chosen to kind of hang on to it right now. I don't know. I chose to hang on and not release anything because I was waiting for a couple of months to go by originally, as to get back on the road and create a full tour around this thing. So it's kind of sidelined right now. I'm really excited about it. It was produced by Paul Nelson. We drove up to Connecticut and cut the album with him over about 10 days in a row. And I dig it. I dig it a lot. It's the only album that I've recorded that we went to the studio. And when we left the studio, I was like, I think we did it. I really, really believe in this one. It's heavy. It's rocking. It's got some influence of a lot of different kinds of music, but it's 100% us. And I'm really proud of it. As a release date, I don't know just yet. We're in a different position than most. Being an independent band, it's not like we can go and put this thing out and with no distribution, no kind of a label backing it, and go accumulate our money back tomorrow from it. It takes a lot of money to do this and to put out an album, as both but for people who are listening that might not know, it takes a lot of money to put these things together. So I was waiting until we could fully get it back out on the road again and tour on this thing and, make enough of our profits back on it to where we can put it right back into the, album number 4 and so on. And that's what we've done with our last 2 is, put one out to kind of fund the next one and get on the road, have something to promote and tour on. And that's been kind of the strategy. So maybe I need to take a step back and reevaluate that strategy, though. Maybe it's time to try and get more creative with it. But as of right now, what I'm hoping to do is hang on a little bit longer and see if we can't start lining up some more dates for 2021 right now and maybe release this thing in January of 2021. But like I said, that's just a rough estimate. I don't really have too much of a game plan right now behind it. Hard to have a game plan right now, isn't it?
Well, and
when it comes to future events, right? So.
Well, it's interesting. Shaw and I have been talking every Friday for some time now. He's become my COVID friend on Fridays, and we change every Friday as far as it's gonna, we'll start working in February, and then we're like, no, it's probably gonna be May.
Right.
And this is just two people talking, every day something changes.
Right.
And that Friday, the conversation is like, okay, let's go and what do you think about this? Or what do you think about that? So it's interesting because I hope for you, Shaw, it's been motivating for me to just keep that creative brain constantly flowing with every new thing that keeps getting thrown at us. I've spoken to a couple of artists this week that did release. And I kind of have to agree with Shaw. It's so expensive to do this that if you're not on the road in a position to recoup it, then hold that back. But, live music fans, they want the new music as much as they want the live show. So if you've got that base and you're able to socially network that this is happening, then this is maybe part of what do you do for income. Because not everybody's got money coming in the mailbox.
Right. And I wish we could release it tomorrow, but it's just there's a couple of things that kind of scare me about it. Believe me, I wanted to release this thing the day we left the studio. I cannot wait to get this thing out to the public and for people to hear it. And it's the only thing I can think about constantly. With that being said, we got to make sure that we can put out album number 4 as well. we can't let it stop at album number 3. That would break my heart. So as badly as I want to get this thing out, trying to be strategic right now, I think, is a very important thing. And whatever that strategy is that you believe and you're going to follow it, it's just, there's a lot of question with it. So that's why we've been hanging on a little bit.
Hey, first of all, Shaw, congratulations. I can't wait to hear the record. And
Thank you, Boo.
And congratulations on doing a darn 9-song record. I'm so glad to hear people that do 9 songs, 7 to 10 song records instead of like 17 tracks. I'm so, like, I almost have contempt. Like, if somebody hands me their new record and it's got 17 tracks on it, I'm just like, I love music, and I feel like I have a better attention span than most. That's too much for me to consume. So good on you on releasing a 9-song record. That's cool. That's
Appreciate
badass
that.
as far as I can.
Thank you. Well, the last one we did with Tales from the West was 9 too. I've tried to keep them a little bit shorter, rather than doing 11 or 12, like you said. It seems to be that the shorter, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 songs seems to be a pretty healthy amount of listening time.
Agree.
So,
well, the job also is to leave them hungry for more, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So tell us, Boo, or Shaw, about how you came to name your band the Black Ties.
Shaw Davis and the Black Ties. It's just a play on word. I played baseball at Troy University in Alabama, where I went to school. And outside my dorm room was this old railroad track that used to be out there. And the ties of the railroad track, this thing had been around since like the 20s, And the ties of this railroad track had turned just completely black. Yet these old wooden, rotted out ties, they still hold this track together. And there were still trains running through this thing, man. And I just would sit out back with an acoustic or something and strum along to it and think to myself, it's really cool how these old black ties have still hung on, man. They hold the track together. They hold everything together. And so that's kind of the basis of it. And it's just a play on word for the rhythm section of Patrick Stevenson on the bass, Bobby Van Stone on the drums, being the black ties, the ties that hold it all together. And then and then I just fly off the rails in no direction at all.
Cool.
And how long you known your band?
I've known Bobby since I was in kindergarten, and Pat and I met about 4 years ago.
That's crazy. And kindergarten.
Kindergarten, that's right. Since we were in diapers, man.
And when you came to play your instruments, did you say well, I pick guitar, so you need to pick something else?
No, Bobby and I actually never even played, jammed together until I think Bobby, how old are we? Bobby's in the band with me right now. We were 15, was it? In high school sometime. And we got together in my parents' garage and made probably some hellacious ruckus. And the cops came, actually. I remember that. We did get a volume complaint the first time we ever played together. So, but no, I ended up leaving Troy after a couple of visits into Austin, Texas, and we used to go play Texas State, which is in San Marcos, Texas, and I used to just get an Uber. And any college baseball player out there, I don't condone this, but I used to just get an Uber and I'd go into town. I'd go into Austin for the entire night, and I'd come rolling back to the field at like 6 a.m. And if my head coach is listening right now, which he very well might be, now he knows. And I used to go out there and I'd see Eric Tesmer play, and Gary Clark Jr. would be at Antone's, and it was just nuts going into Austin and seeing all the people that I grew up loving, and that inspired me to quit baseball and finally do the thing that I always wanted to do, which was go and play music. And it was those black ties that really kind of inspired me, and it was a really cool experience. It was what felt like a whole circle of events that happened that really led me to leaving college, leaving a scholarship, and leaving baseball to buy a van, get in the road, and just start doing this. Because that's all, it really
Yeah, I can tell you're in Missouri. where the internet comes and goes.
Hey,
But that
I
was
know.
great.
I
You
don't know if I'm here.
hey,
well, you bleeped out a
Oh,
little bit,
I
but it
was
was
going to wrap.
funny
Sorry.
when you were
I
talking
was going to
about
wrap up the
leaving.
story saying, that, when I was in college, the only reason I didn't do this or out of high school was because I had so many questions and a lot of fear about doing it. And the only thing I could get myself to do is go, just start, just find one place to start. Find out how to play a gig. Find out anything you can and just start doing it one step at a time and just completely immerse yourself in the scene. Just go for it 110% without any question. Baptism by fire, learn along the way. And that's what we've done. And it's certainly a learning process every day, but I love it. I love it dearly. I wouldn't ever do anything else in my life. This is the only thing I care to do.
Just crossing my mind, Daddy's Dogs here in Nashville is a little hot dog joint, and they're doing sort of drive-in. I haven't been there yet, but they're doing drive-in shows. And then this other joint out in Franklin that I mentioned is doing some shows too. If Shaw wants to come do a couple shows in Nashville, we could do a couple double bills. I'm pretty sure that Daddy's Dogs things is a necessity. They're booking it as double bills,
Okay.
So
then I would love to.
Yeah, let's talk about that after the fact.
Right.
I got two pretty decent little little shows that we could do. The Daddy's Dogs is a possibility, and then the joint out in Franklin, Kimbrough's, is a spot.
Oh, right.
And also I wanted to mention, Tina, you were talking about some alternative release strategies and stuff. You know who Robin Hitchcock and Emma Swift are? You guys know about them at all?
I know Emma Swift.
Robin's a pop star out of the 90s. Robin Hitchcock. Okay. And his girl, Emma Swift, just released and didn't release to any modern or typical platforms whatsoever. She's only Bandcamp, and she's having a very, very successful release. And I'm impressed, and I've got my eyes on Emma Swift. It's a great record too. There are people. There's a few people trying to respond, as intelligently and with some success, apparently.
Yeah. I mean, it's when you get to free yourself from your daily routine, it has been amazing, the ideas that race through my head. And I've had to keep notepads all over my house to write them down because,
sure,
you're like, I don't know where that came from, but that's brilliant. So yeah, collecting them all to find out if they might actually connect some dots individually, collectively,
I wanted to share one thing with you, Tina. We just signed and executed a brand new record deal, and one of the main things, we've got 3 unreleased tracks off of Tennessee Alabama Fireworks, and I might be speaking or letting the cat out of the bag. I don't think so. It's cool though. Everybody's, Tina knows my team well. Everybody's cool and we're all laid back, so ain't nobody gonna jump on me too hard about this. But we, like, for instance, we did Shaw, I think you'll dig this Guitar-mageddon version of that we did of 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And it's like 7 minutes long or something. I don't know if it's 7. It might be 6. But so we've got we're fixing to do the deluxe extended version of Tennessee Alabama Fireworks. It's fixing to come out, and it's with Jen Lozen. Jen Boys from Lozen, and Jen was at 30 Tigers, and she had her hands in 2017 and 18. She had her hands and did the Isabel Brent Cobb releases. She was the marketing brains and plan behind those records, and she's gone out on her own, and she signed me. So I'm the first act that she signed out on her own, and I'm super excited about her. She's a powerful.
Congrats on that.
Yeah,
that is awesome.
And congrats to her for her timing. That's
Thank you.
bold. I like her.
And let's send Shaw's record to Jan, and first of all, I personally would love to hear it. I mean, like I said, I stalked you on YouTube, and you sound great, man. And also your vocabulary and your communication is excellent. I would love to write with you.
Man, I would love to as well. I was listening to a lot, like I said, we were jamming out to you in the van today, and I was really digging it, man. I love the lyrics. A lot of the lyrics, man. I love good lyrics, and you write some good lyrics.
Thank you kindly. I appreciate that. Yeah. I mean, I'm totally enjoing the hang here. It's really.
Yeah, and I mean, I told you, Boo. I can't help but I do hear Kid Rock in your vocals. And so, that sets it on this plateau to me, because I am a Kid Rock fan. I don't care who wants to disagree with me.
Yeah, hell yeah, me too.
And so, it sets up that stage, but really, I'm like Shaw. I'm a sucker for great lyrics, and you write damn good songs.
Thanks. Kid Rock needs to cut some of my songs, don't you think?
Well, I mean, you and I discussed this.
Yeah.
If Kid Rock came out the way he wanted to, because he was part of an era where the labels reinvented you and did what they thought would make you more money, he would be you. Right. You know what I mean? He'd have that alt country thing, but yet still that rock edge. And so he does need to know of you.
Sure.
He needs to go on tour with you.
Perfect.
That's my take.
Well,
so
let's do a Nashville thing and write while you're here.
That'd be awesome. I'm so glad that I nailed this one.
Wonderful.
I knew you two would get along, but building relationships during this time is a good thing, but having conversation, because we can't necessarily do that for lunch. I appreciate you guys doing this. So as we head out, tell folks where they can reach you, your website, your social, however you want them to reach you.
I think Shaw might be Missouri. I'm at BooRayMusic.com. Instagram is my most active social platform. BooRayMusic.com, and holler at me anytime. I'm still doing leather work and building some guitar straps, and if anybody wants a personal connection with the H-Bar-C people or the Olathe Boot Company or anything that I'm involved in or working on, I'd love to make introductions and turn somebody on to and to have any dialogue that somebody would like to have.
Thank you. That's very kind and gracious of you. So I don't know if you heard us, because we know that you're lost in the middle somewhere between Missouri and Kansas.
I heard it. I got cut off right when Boo started to speak.
Okay. So tell us how to reach you.
You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and on our website, ShawDavisBlackTies.com, Shaw Davis Black Ties on Instagram, and Shaw Davis and the Black Ties on Facebook. And also on Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, anywhere anybody's streaming, it's all there. There's also a bunch of incriminating evidence on YouTube you can find anywhere you want. So there's a bunch of good stuff everywhere, man. Anywhere.
That's great.
That's great. So you're at Knuckleheads tonight. Is that right?
Yes.
I'm jealous.
Okay.
Yes.
I know.
I am,
too.
man. I am so excited. I'm so grateful we get the chance to go and play tonight at Knuckleheads. I've been dreaming of this for 6 months now.
Right.
Since the shutdown happened, I've been stoked on this date. I'm just so glad that Frank has been forging on, finding ways to create a safe environment for people, and I am so stoked we get to go play. So
he has
howdy up there tonight.
Yeah, tell him.
We
both said hello.
And travel, man.
And what time do you start, and how much are your tickets?
Tickets are $10 tonight. We go on, I believe they're around 8:30. Our good friends Dust Devil Choir are opening up the show at 7:30, and we go on after them. So I'm excited to see them. We got some good friends in that band. Sean McDonald's in there, and can't wait to see those guys, man.
Thank you for being here, gentlemen. It's such a pleasure. I really appreciate you joining me for this.
Thank you kindly.
Oh, you guys have a great day.
Thank you,
Too.
Tina.
So long.
Boo, I'm gonna email you.
Perfect.
I'm gonna get your
Looking
stuff. Get
forward
your
to
info.
it. Thanks, man.
Sounds
All right.
good.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Gig Sessions Lunchtime Talk. Next week's guest will be American troubadour Guy Davis and the lovely Gay Adegbalola, formerly from Sapphire, the Uppity Blues Women. See you then, and don't forget, if you like what you saw here, please hit subscribe and make sure to stay in touch as to when we go live. Have a great day. Bye-bye.